What's up, everybody, and welcome to Inside the Game, your one source for everything cool in video games. Don't forget, you can always be a part of our show. All you have to do is go to insidethegame.ca, where there you can submit your clip and end off our show. What's coming up on today's episode? Here it is. It's the rundown.
I actually did like the art style. I thought it's very fun. It is a very fun game, very fast paced. Like you said, all you're doing is just going around in circles. You basically have to clean each tier.
And Red Dead Redemption 2 to get ready for the next event, Blood Money.
Drew, this week we're setting our sights in Sniper Elite VR. In this week's gaming history, I want to talk about Battle Royales.
But like I said, I believe they're setting up a universe where we're going to see more sequels come down the line.
Alright, I'm back with your Rainbow Six Siege North American Pro League coverage. And Playdate 5 has come and gone, and it was filled with some intense matches.
There is a ton going on in today's episode, so let's get started as Steve and Scott take a bullet and go orbital.
Well, this week, Steve, we're running around in circles. This is Orbital Bullet. You and I got a chance to take a look at this very imaginative shooter. Now, this is Orbital Bullet, and I want to try to explain what's going on here. You are a side-scrolling shooter character. Think about Contra, something of the like. But the levels that you're traversing are these cylinders, and it kind of wraps around as you walk. It's a little hard to describe, but you'll see what I mean. This is a totally new kind of shooter for me, but what were your first impressions jumping into this one?
I actually did like the art style. I thought it's very fun. It is a very fun game, very fast paced. Like you said, all you're doing is just going around in circles. You basically have to clean each tier to progress up to the top before you can move on to the next part. So you have to clean the total area, and then once you do that, you get transported, or you go into an elevator and it'll take you up to the next tier, and then you fight the next bunch of creatures.
Yeah.
But that sort of just seems to be the premises of the game, because that's all you do. Yes, you do get other weapons. You get like the bazookas and the SMGs, and like I said, it is fun. The music's cool as well with it, and I love the art style, the pixelated style. But like I said, you get up to the top and then you move on to the next bit. So how did you feel about that sort of?
Yeah, well, it is a kind of a repetitive game loop, but it is a roguelite. You are meant to perish, and you have to restart again. So each kind of foray into a planet and through these cylinders is only going to last so long. You do have this leveling system that goes kind of long term, and that's what you're kind of collecting while you're out. You're picking up these little objects, these little perks and levels, and between runs, when you inevitably perish, you are able to put points into something that will help you throughout time. So personally, I went for health and shields. That way I could go further and further and try and explore some new environments. But the environments weren't super varied. That's one thing I noticed.
And you have to start back at the beginning again. And I found that a little bit frustrating, because you don't get rewarded as much for the work you do and for the grind as well. But I did like the graphics visually. It suited the game.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, we were talking about what would you call this kind of graphical style, and I think it's a pixelated, but it's a higher definition pixel than you'd normally expect. But it's a little cartoony. It's not super serious. And the monsters that you're fighting, again, are a little bit cartoony, not quite so serious and gory. And I think that fits this game very well. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's kind of just a jump in, jump out sort of scenario. And it has a satisfying loop to me where my character gets stronger and I can keep going. And that sometimes you're on a hot streak and it's hard to put it down then. But
Yes.
One of the problems I found is that the environments are not very varied. There's not a whole lot of changes going on between the discs. And
yes.
Furthermore, when you go to a new planet, it's a lot of the same set pieces. You may find some different kind of creatures, but there isn't a huge variation of them. So it seems quite limited, but the game is in early access at the moment. I believe it's been out for quite some time, but it still has quite some time yet to go. So we have to kind of temper the opinion with that, because they will be making changes to this.
The other thing I want to sort of little touch on as well is on the controls. I don't know about you, because you can use mouse or keyboard, which I did struggle a little bit, because there's quite a lot of functions in this fast-paced game, where it's like double jump, shooting, and then you're left, right, and you're rolling or ducking down and things like that. So I actually played it with my controller, and I found that I would recommend it for me. I found it a lot easier using the controller just for moving around. What do you use, Scott?
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't tried the controller, but now I wish I had, because I was getting a little bit of the keyboard claw sort of effect with my hands, and you're using the WASD to move. But I actually, instead of using my mouse, I changed the controls to my left and right arrow key. So I'm shooting with the left and changing weapons with the right. And that kind of just alleviated it, so I could just focus on keyboard. But that did take a little bit of getting used to. If we're gonna put a score on this one, I think I'm about ready to, because it is in early access, like we said, but it does seem to be complete enough that I want to put a score on that one. But if you're gonna rate it, what would you give it?
Okay. Well, as we said, I did like the game to start off with, but I think after 3 to 4 hours, it got a bit repetitive. I maybe would have liked a bit more of a campaign, of a bit more about the character, if there was a storyline. But on what I've played so far, I'm going to give this a 6.5.
Okay, yeah, I hear a lot of what you're saying, actually. The story is an element that's quite lacking. I don't know why I'm there, I don't know who I am, but I know I must kill. And that seems to be the entire storyline. It does get a little repetitive, and I would like to see some of the environments change, different enemies. I'm really hoping that comes in further updates, so I have to kind of take that away from my initial enjoyment of the game. I'm going to give this one a 7.5. I'm just a little bit above you. Orbital Bullet is a fast-paced roguelite shooter. It has a simple yet satisfying gameplay loop, but unfortunately, it lacks story or character development.
Alright, so this week for Level Up, I'm going to help all my cowboys and cowgirls out there in Red Dead Redemption 2 to get ready for the next event, Blood Money. This, I'm sure, is going to cost gold bars to start up this whole robberies heist thing. So I'm going to get you started and give you a little tips and tricks on how to get gold bars the quickest. So I would say the most efficient way to grind out gold bars is by obtaining the bounty hunter license. You can get gold bars every single bounty you complete, and bounties vary between 1 to up to 6 targets sometimes. And when you get 6 targets and you cash them all in, that is a lot of gold bars. Completing other mission types like Trader and Moonshiner just don't grant you the gold bars that the bounty hunter license does. But if you are new to Red Dead Redemption 2, of course you probably don't even have the bounty hunter license. So in order to get this, I would say complete those daily challenges. Those are your most efficient way to grind out gold bars. You get a daily streak bonus and then a weekly streak bonus that adds a multiplier, just giving you more and more gold bars. So this is my advice to you guys. If you want to grind out those gold bars, get that bounty hunter license and grind out those bounties. And if you don't have that, then get those daily challenges complete.
Drew, this week we're setting our sights in Sniper Elite VR.
Nice. Corey, we're grabbing our VR and we're going sniping. Dude, I've been following and waiting for this title. I love sniping. Sniper games are absolutely right up my alley. They're definitely my jam. So when I heard Sniper Elite was going VR, we had to jump in.
For sure.
Dude, I've played them all, and they're fantastic games. Rebellion really knows what they're doing when it comes to the world of Sniper. And Sniper Elite's always been set in the that post-war kind of that war era. So you're kind of getting, what you're getting into, right? Mm-hmm. And they brought the same feel, which I found when it came to the VR, except now, you're actually holding your arms up, your hands up, and you're going down sights. It's just, man, that's the VR experience I've been waiting for so long. I think Rebellion has crushed it. The rush you get when you are sniping, and then it goes into the kill cam. Oh man, what a game. Now, just to quickly set up the storyline, what's going on here is you're part of the Resistance, but you're being told through the eyes of one of the Resistance members that is now become like in old age, almost like retired, like a grandpa kind of thing, right? Where you sit around and you hear stories and war stories. Is that kind of perspective. So he's at his farmhouse, which was essentially like HQ for the Resistance, and he goes and he tells you, he's flipping through a book basically what's going on, and then you kind of hear the story unravel, and each level comes to fruition there. And dude, then you go out and you experience what he did back in that day, right? It's wow. You know what? I've been loving it the entire time, but I've also been feeling a little bit woozy in some of the missions. Corey, how about you?
Well, you know what? I'm a casual fan of the series. I haven't played, all the games. I've played some of them, partway through. I have completed one of them. But honestly, they've done a good job at taking that experience and bringing it to the VR world. I mean, these sniping mechanics, we played a couple games where sniper rifles have been used, and on VR, honestly, the sniping can be difficult, right? You're trying to line that sight up, and it can be kind of jittery at times, and it's not always easy to steady those hands, but I found they managed to find a way to do it here and it be smooth. I mean, this game is all about sniping, like you'd mentioned. We get those awesome X-ray kills, which I thought were really, really sweet. I like the fact that you can also toggle them down or toggle them off if you want to kind of keep things a little more streamlined, if that's what you kind of prefer as a play style. But honestly, I mean, who doesn't love watching those? It's the best part of the Sniper Elite series, man. And they did a good job, right? I mean, we talk about some of the visual aspects of the game. I know you and I maybe had a bit of a different opinion, but honestly, I think overall they've done a pretty good job, but definitely could improve in that area. But honestly, as I played through this game, I did enjoy the way everything was laid out. I mean, the missions were well done. I thought, being able to pick up ammo and you're swapping guns, and they kind of give you look at the gun, it gives you all the stats about it, which I thought was really, really cool. I mean, there's some finer details here that you don't see in a lot of VR games. So as an overall package, I thought it was a pretty polished experience. But I do agree with you. There are times, especially, I'm not so much in the movement with the VR, but I do find that my eyes start to bother me, especially when I'm trying to concentrate with the scope and things like that over time. But with, limited play sessions or, 30 to 45 minute play sessions, I find this game can be really enjoying, right? And I just had a good time playing it, Drew.
Dude, I agree with you. There's so much fun to be had here. I've been dying for a sniper, like a good sniper game. VR, sniper, dude, it just makes a lot of sense. So when they said Rebellion was bringing it, I was pumped. But my problem lies in a few areas, Corey. Climbing a ladder, it's a little bit janky. There's like, you climb and then you reach, and then it kind of just like there's just a bit of a pop, right? And then you reach for the next one and another pop. And so like, whoa, what are you doing there? And the other thing too for me is graphically, I don't feel it's up to snuff. I really feel it's a little underwhelming. You look at the textures, and the textures are flat. It's a painted surface is what it is what the problem really lies on, right? When you look at the ground, it's just completely flat. And the texture artists, I think, did a great job for what they were given to do. I think that's the bright side of it. I think the textures look great, but when you go to the plane itself, dude, like I put my hand on a wall and it is completely flat, but it's supposed to be a rock, right? That's the thing. So you're kind of like, there's just, if they could just emphasize a little bit more on the overall graphical fidelity of the game, I think that would have really stepped it up for me, that extra little bit. But dude, everything is right there. You're looking for a sniper game? This is it. Look no further.
For sure.
Corey, my overall experience, dude, Sniper Elite VR is one of the best VR experiences I've ever had. This is fantastic. I thought the narration, storytelling part of it as well was fantastic. I thought it was really well done. Didn't miss a beat. Everything here is smooth. The gunplay is smooth. And when it comes to the VR world of sniping and shooting, it can always be a little kind of hit or miss. And Rebellion nailed it, dude. They didn't miss anything here. This game is fantastic. For me, puts me at, you got it. It's a 9, Corey.
Woo. You know what? I can't blame you, Drew. This game's got it all. Like you said, other than some graphical issues when it comes to just maybe just a little more detail. I mean, we know what this game's capable of. We know what this series is capable of. So, I mean, it would have been nice to see a little bit more. But honestly, the gameplay really just pushes you past all that. The gun mechanics, like you said, were so smooth. We played a lot of games now where it can be kind of janky at times. You know, you can't get that reload quite fast enough. This game didn't really hold me up there. Honestly, I had a blast playing it. I can't wait to get into it even more. I'm giving this one an 8.5.
Nice.
An immersive sniper experience done well with great gun mechanics and lots of action. It would have been nice to see the graphics meet the gameplay level, but overall, this has got to be one of the best VR snipers out there.
No one is safe. The fear they can instill in a foe, it can penetrate the soul.
In this week's gaming history, I want to talk about Battle Royales, and we're going to look back on a little bit of the past of where Battle Royales came from and kind of when they exploded and where we are today with some of the biggest games like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Call of Duty Warzone. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Battle Royale, by definition, traditionally refers to a fight involving multiple combatants where it is fought until one fighter remains standing. And this last man standing mentality has been in games since even the mid-80s during the Super Bomberman days where we had multiple combatants on the same screen in the same arena and it was fought till there was one person left standing. And honestly, this has been a style of gameplay that has kind of trickled through games through the years, but it wasn't until about 2012 where we started seeing mods for Minecraft. Due to the popularity of the big time movies Hunger Games, there was mods put into Minecraft that were Hunger Games style game modes that people had created. There was lots of different styles of maps that mimicked the look of the movies, and it became very popular on Twitch and for different streamers alike. And this style of gameplay really started to focus on the survival aspect and the head-to-head PvP style of this game mode. And we hadn't really seen anything up until then. And there was also Arma 2 as well. There was mods made in that game that were later called DayZ by creator Brendan Green. We're going to talk about him a little bit later, but he is definitely a significant piece to this puzzle. But games like Arma 2 where it was just PvE and then these mods kind of brought in a PvPvE style game mode that had people searching for resources and different types of equipment while also trying to, you know, manage different player encounters, whether it was friendly or aggressive. It didn't really matter. That was kind of the draw to this game. It brought so many people out there that they actually broke off, and Brendan Green went over with Bohemia Interactive and said, hey, let's make DayZ its own game. And they created DayZ Battle Royale. And there was some significance here because of that creation of that style of gameplay. Brendan Green looked at it and said, you know what, these FPSs that we play now, people memorize the maps. They're too linear. They're, you know, things can happen too quickly sometimes and they start to feel very repetitive. So he thought with this Battle Royale genre that we'd be able to play games with larger maps where there are these survival aspects where we have to find different types of equipment and things to stay alive and traverse these maps and, vast landscapes, because these games tend to have very large maps, especially early on in the early adaptations of these Battle Royales. So it was very interesting to see Brendan Green, and he kind of got headhunted by a couple other studios later on to start working on some other games. Green was eventually brought on by Daybreak Studios to kind of consult for their new game H1Z1, which was a survival style game that also had a Battle Royale portion as well. This was two separate games, mind you, kind of conjunctured into the same game. Shortly after, Green was invited to South Korea to Bluehole Games because they were inspired by H1Z1 and they wanted to create a Battle Royale style game. Fast forward a little bit to 2017, Green's using his online player name, Player Unknown, and he's created Player Unknown's Battleground. PUBG is mostly all know it by now, and let me tell you, this game was huge. It was a huge success. I mean, it had everything that people were looking for in the Battle Royale style game, and at the time they did it right. Nobody else was doing exactly like they did. I mean, PUBG was able to get popular by having live streamers stream the game, allowing the player base overall and the popularity of the game to rise in 2017, actually surpassing Dota 2 numbers, one of the most popular games streamed on Twitch. PUBG had taken over with all, bringing on popular streamers and their audiences, and it just kind of grew from there. And really, honestly, that is what kind of grew our next beast in the Battle Royale world, and we're talking about Fortnite. In September 2017, Epic Games released the early access of Fortnite, a game split into two, one side being a PvE survival game and the other the popular free-to-play Battle Royale. Epic Games brought mechanics such as instant structure building and environmental resource collecting to allow for these structures to be built into games as one of the first games to ever do it. Within weeks, Fortnite was able to pass PUBG's 3 million concurrent players that took them over a year to amass, and by 2019, Fortnite had over 250 million players worldwide. In 2020, Epic Games said there's over 350 million registered Fortnite accounts and over 4 million players playing the game at the time of this video. In late 2018, Call of Duty's Black Ops 4 came out with the Blackout Battle Royale game, which was separate from the main game. You had to purchase the main game to get the Blackout mode, but this was Call of Duty's first shot at the Battle Royale mode, and it was unfortunately an overall miss. The game just didn't play the way fans of the series wanted it to, and because of that, it just lost popularity so fast. Player counts went down to the point where the game, was pretty well dead. And unfortunately, that was kind of Call of Duty's big swing and a miss. They took some time off. In between that, EA and Respawn actually came out with their version, Apex Legends, and this was a huge success. This game came out of nowhere. No one really saw it coming, and for the first month or so, there was Twitch users playing this game like crazy. I mean, Respawn and EA went in there. They must have dropped some big time money because they had some big time players playing this game, and everybody knew about it to the point where people were wondering if it was going to surpass Fortnite. It definitely beat it in numbers in certain ways, maybe not overall player numbers and growth, because Fortnite was really that phenomenon that started this whole Battle Royale explosion as far as the last few years are concerned. But Apex Legends brought things in like the ping system and their overall movement system that just kind of paved the way for Call of Duty's next attempt in 2020 when they came out with Warzone, which was their next jump into that Battle Royale universe. It wasn't until March 2020 that Activision and Raven Software created Call of Duty Battle Royale Warzone, implementing a buy station system that allowed players to gear up and buy specific items to aid them through their victories on the map. The success of Warzone's free-to-play system and fast-paced gameplay has really been the big reason for its success. I mean, this second iteration of their Battle Royale, we all forgot about Blackout by now. Warzone has been so successful. The game's reached levels of popularity like Fortnite and Apex, allowing it to be one of the top games in the Battle Royale genre. The Battle Royale genre is not an old one, but it's definitely cemented its place in the gaming world as one of the most popular genres right now. Let me tell you, with Goliaths like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Warzone leading the way, I'm pretty excited to see where the future of Battle Royales pans out.
Well, Steve, we're in a whole new world checking this one out. This is Scarlet Nexus. We took a look at this kind of game that we don't see very often. This is an anime-inspired RPG, and it kind of sets its own whole universe up. This is a very large game to get into, and it's very story-driven for sure. But it does some interesting stuff with the combat, with the enemies, and a few things that I want to get into here. But as far as first impressions go, what did you think of this one, Steve?
I have to say, Scott, this kind of ticked all the boxes for me. I love the story-driven games, and this one is quite deep and complex, but it did suck me in, and it's basically set in the future where technology now has super enhanced the brains and humanity. And some of them actually have certain abilities like psychokinesis and those kind of things. And your planet is being terrorized by aliens or creatures, and they're called the Others. And you cannot kill them with normal weapons and machine guns and things like that. The only people that can do that is the people with the special human powers, and they're called OSF, the Other Suppressive Force. And that's where you start up with Yuito, and Kasane is the first characters you can pick from, one or the other.
Yeah, there's an interesting dual-layered storyline going on. As soon as you get into the game, you're met with a lot of different characters, and there's a lot of introductions kind of set up, and that reminds me really heavily of anime, certainly. And yeah, the way it's visually presented is kind of like a comic book kind of thing going on. And I think that's really interesting because it holds your attention. But you meet tons of these characters, and later on in the story, it becomes clear that everybody's kind of interwoven. There's parts of the game, parts of the story that are happening that you don't experience, but you're kind of told about. And I think that's because later on, you can actually switch characters, and instead of being Yuito, you go over to Kasane and you experience her whole half of the story. So it kind of does a split perspective thing that way. And I think that's interesting because it kind of gives you the chance to go through the story twice, in a way, without just replaying exactly what you finished. So I like that, and I think it's really interesting. The story is super heavy, though. So it takes a little to get into because it is quite long. There's a lot to the story, but like I said, I believe they're setting up a universe where we're gonna see more sequels come down the line.
Oh, totally agree. And just touching on what you were saying is very based on the story driven. Everyone's got a story to tell, and there's even a point in the game where you go to your safe house, and there's a point that happens in your life that you're upset about, and so are the rest of your colleagues, and they sort of want to come over and you can go over and talk to them, and they'll tell you a bit, are you okay, and that kind of thing. So I love the way how it does try to connect you with the other characters, but like you said, I think it does become a little bit overwhelming because I'm trying to remember who's who and all those kind of all those things. But the graphically, like you said, that's my first time I've played an anime kind of game. And the way it's kind of like the postcards, like you'll have a still photo and then you'll have the two characters' faces come up. And I have to commend the voice acting. I thought they kind of nailed it with this game. It was in sync with the lip moving on the characters, and you know, I couldn't fault it on that front. But there was a couple of things that did, which we're going to touch on now, was the game mechanics of this.
Yeah, it can be quite complicated. They've nailed the storytelling. The only issue I have with that is that it is quite long. Sometimes I just want to jump into the action, but it kind of presents you a lot of social dynamics and stuff to go through. which is really cool. It's good to bond with the party members, and there's certain ones that come and go. So there is definitely a function to it, but when it comes down to the actual combat of it, the gameplay, it's quite complicated. And it feels like for the first little couple hours, it just keeps getting more and more complicated as you learn your abilities as one of these enhanced humans. You have your kinesis, you can throw objects. Party members that join you have fire, thunder, and invisibility, and there's a lot of imaginative powers that go on. So there's a lot of time you're spent kind of learning when and what is worth using in combat.
Yes.
And there's quite a lot of combo systems going on too, where you have a heavy attack, you have a light attack, and you're using that in sequence to kind of keep enemies pinned down. It can be quite complicated when you compare it to something like Final Fantasy 15, for example. 15 totally simplified the Final Fantasy thing, and I think they nailed that. But the alternative to that is what you find in Scarlet Nexus. It's a little more complicated, but it's up to you to learn how to use everything properly. And I think they do an interesting way of combat. I think it is effective. The only problem that I've had so far, actually, and this is something we've both mentioned, is the camera angles. It's a little hard to contend with the camera sometimes.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. And I was going to say, the tutorial wasn't too bad, because when you get to certain areas where you have to use a new ability, you will get a little pop-up screen to say either hold X or R2 or whatever move to do it. And I do like the concept of the idea of using your other, your co-workers' abilities. They say you've got like a brain link, and certain others, you have to use special, like you said, combos to destroy him. And you can't just use your sword on it, so you have to use some of the abilities. And I think it was like teleportation, where you can dash quickly in front of it before it realises you're there, to strike it to get the first attack on it. So I do like the idea of that, but exactly like you, some of the camera angles in the game was really bad for me. There was an issue where there was another on the ceiling, and it was on a crate, and you use your psychokinesis to pull the crate down to land on top, but one of my characters was down and I had to revive it, but he kept looking up at the ceiling, which I did find frustrating, as well as some of the combat as well. You feel like you're going to make contact, but you actually missed it because of the camera angle.
It's not that the camera moves in a weird way, it's just that your character kind of moves independently of the camera. So I often found myself just missing slightly, but I'm putting in like an 8-button combo, so now I'm missing for quite some time, and that definitely broke up the fluidity of the combat.
Yes.
And the other issue that I have, the only time the camera does kind of move around on me, it ends up being like a worm eye view. I'm looking way up into the sky, and that was a little strange, because a lot of the environments are quite busy, and it's this urban sprawl. I would rather have a camera look down, if anything, than straight up. That was a little strange. Well, this game is very big, so if we've kind of brushed over some topics, that's intentional. It's a little hard to get the full scope of this game and explain it to somebody. It really has to be experienced itself. But there's definitely some really standout interesting things, and only a couple problems that we've both kind of run into. But if you're going to put a number on this one, what do you think about Scarlet Nexus, Steve?
Well, to be honest with Scott, apart from the camera angle, that didn't really totally ruin my experience, and there is still so much more story for me to get through, and I'm really enjoying this at the moment, and I'm loving everything about it. I'm giving this a 9.
Very nice. Yeah, I echo a lot of the things you're saying there. The camera was a little annoying, but not a deal breaker. And the story, I find, is long in the tooth, but I think that's just because I'm new to it, that it's feeling that way, and it does a great job of telling the story. whether I'm annoyed by it or not. But those are just two little gripes I have. Other than that, this game looks just like an awesome anime. It's very stylized in the way that Persona sort of is. There's a lot of character intermingling, and it's got me hooked in now for the long term. So I have to give this one an 8. I'm very impressed, but I just want to see a little bit more refinement.
Scarlet Nexus is a very fast-paced and stylish anime RPG with its deep equipment and skill customization and a huge emphasis on story and character interaction.
Alright, I'm back with your Rainbow Six Siege North American Pro League coverage. And Playday 5 has come and gone, and it was filled with some intense matches. Space Station Gaming, they continued their winning streak. TSM, did they continue their winning streak? Well, let's get right into it, guys. Starting with Game 1, we had XSET up against Beast Coast. Both of these teams fighting to make a name for themselves in the Pro League, and particularly XSET without a win since October. So heading into Playday 5 on Consulate, both these teams put all they had into it. Rudy, being one of the players with the lower stats of the league, turned up his game against XSET, putting him up on the leaderboard with multi-kill rounds the entire match. But his efforts amongst his teammates was not good enough to withhold the hunger for a win by XSET. With XSET's coach Jarvis subbing in, they concluded to an 8-7 victory over Beast Coast, putting XSET and Beast Coast tied at the bottom of the standings with 2 points each.
Keep it even though. It's just Fozo now as Rudy is eliminated in Visa. Fozo's been here before. He can make it happen this time. No bullets and Filthy! What a nasty shot with the pistol! And he has 1 more second than he needs. XSET will bring it back to even.
That Filthy flank lives up to his name. It was filthy.
Now the next match everyone predicted to be the one to look out for. I mean, we had Space Station Gaming up against Team Oxygen. But to much surprise lately, Space Station Gaming lit up the battlefield yet again, this time on Chalet though. Oxygen was predicted to be one of the contending teams in the North American League, yet after today's 7-1 loss, it knocked them all the way into 6th place with 5 points and bumped up Space Station Gaming into 1st. The newest addition of Hot and Cold to SSG has been the perfect fit since their retirement of their famed player, Canadian.
So at least dropping back to the hatch won't be a possibility, but it's a pretty similar situation. Hot and Cold can burst right into bar and start finding these picks early. He's all by himself inside. He knows there's someone back to the doorway, but at least
But enough about Space Station Gaming, guys. Let's get into Game 3. We had yet another tight match, much like the first one of the Playday, with Dark Zero Esports squeezing yet another overtime win. This time over Team Sonics with an 8-6 victory on Consulate. Although Sonics is a newer team and is still building as a unit, they at least stick to their game plan, unlike a lot of other teams in the North American League. For instance, when they go for an upstairs push and it falls apart, they quickly adapt to what they believe will be the next best thing. Whereas you see a lot of other teams will have a similar situation pull up and they will just crumble without any sort of fallback plan and end up with 3 players in 3 parts of the map. But still, this great game plan ultimately could not hold up against the brutality of Dark Zero, as they had a solid performance on Consulate.
last one on the flank. Can he stop the plants? No, he can't get the kill onto BC. Instead, he adjusts to the other side of the black car. He'll take down Hyper, but Eclipse forces it to yellow. The SMG 11 in hand, and he'll claim Dark Zero's first win here up against the Sonics, but their 4th overtime win across the board.
The final match of the day was by far the most exciting one of the day. TSM up against Mirage. This was predicted to have a very different outcome than what it was, guys. TSM have been rolling through teams this year, having only a few losses the entire season. And in my losses, I mean round losses, not match losses. They've lost like 3 or 4 rounds this entire stage. But that quickly changed as Mirage, they had an 8-7 overtime win over TSM. This is crazy. TSM has been on an absolute winning spree lately, and Mirage, well, going into this, they were in 3rd place, yes, but their round win-loss ratio was -1. This blows my mind, especially because the skill level that is in this North American League, like from all these teams, to have a -1 round win-loss ratio and withhold 3rd place, this is very impressive. But you might be wondering, how does Mirage do this? Well, the answer is Mirage has grit, and it showed in their game on Playday 5. Anytime Mirage plays, they always give their opponent a run for their money. They, by each game, become more and more cohesive as a team, and ultimately, I believe they're in contention for representing North America later on in the World Series.
And Bolo, the entire team is about to start bearing down from Kitchen. They won't even get the chance to shoot Shala, as instead it's going to be the flank from Kitchen that shuts it down. Mirage take the W in overtime versus TSM.
But I hope you enjoyed these highlights. Here's a quick glimpse at the standings so you can see where all the teams lie. So now we're halfway through the season. These next few games are going to be crucial for these teams. So stay tuned next week to get Playday 6's highlights. All right, Raven, we're going in and sniping. Alright, Drew, so we got our hands on Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2, that is a mouthful, by CI Games, and I must say, this is their best title yet in this franchise as a whole. My last title was actually Sniper Ghost Warrior 3, and well, that game was a bit of a misstep. Their drone use was kind of lousy, and just all in all, the game was just okay. But moving into this one, man, I must say, I had a blast, dude. Let's just start off with what made this game most exciting, and that was the bullet animations, dude.
Yeah, for sure. Man, the sniping in the game is bar none one of the best around. It is fantastic to get into this game. It is such a rush as a sniper to pull off that perfect headshot. Yeah, I'm using the ability where it shows me the red dot so I can get that perfect animation, but I'm going to go for it every single time because, man, when that bullet hits and you take out 2 targets, there's nothing like those heads just popping off, man. It is fantastic. Definitely a rush, and one that had me, just playing the game non-stop. I wrapped up the game at 21 hours, still with other things to go back and do because they've also introduced challenges and other things that will keep you going back for more within the game. You can finish up the campaign, but yet there's still the ability of replay. And I think that was one of the nice highlights this time around, is that these challenges are there that, the more you accomplish these challenges as you go within the game, the more money you wind up with. Dude, by the time I finished, I had $800,000. So I'm sitting on a pile of dough right now within the game because there's a slight problem, and we'll get to that shortly here, Nate. But overall, my experience with the game, dude, I couldn't put it down. I just could not put it down. Loved it.
Man, for anybody who's into that stealth sniping genre, man, you have got to play this game. But all right, let's talk about the story, because it's, you know, it's nothing too spectacular. We're trying to stop a war in Kumar as the protagonist named Raven, I guess, codename Raven, which he's sort of a cool character. He's not necessarily the most interesting character, but he's not boring. I like his voice. I find him very kind of menacing, and he's kind of get a bit of his background story as you're playing the game. But what did you think of this story, Drew?
I thought the story was there. You know, it is definitely that espionage kind of tactical feel that you get when you get, you know, governments involved and things like that, right? So you're basically there to prevent a war. And it was enough to kind of keep me going, but it was really the gameplay that really pushed me forward. Story was there, it was achievable in what the process was to get me going on the game, but after that, dude, it's all about the gameplay.
Yeah, man, the mission design in this game, I think, is where it really excels. There are about 6 missions in this game, and each mission, man, some of them are very long, dude. I mean, and huge. It's kind of this open sandbox where you can pursue a situation as you will. Maybe not as, you know, there's not as many options as I would like, as in I've seen in other games like Cyberpunk. I went stealth in that game, and I found there was like sometimes 10, 12 different routes just to get inside a building, whereas this game, it's like, well, I didn't really discover this new entrance to this area until I completed it completely. So, but I don't really want to sound like I'm getting upset about it, because I loved it, man. It is so satisfying. You're in foresty areas, you're in this deep kind of mine and like this nuclear silo. They have so many different options with their missions.
There's definitely, I think they're getting on somewhere with their level design. I think they're on point here. It does lack a little exploration overall. Like when I compare it to something like Dishonored, where you have like 9 or 10 different entries into one building, where here, you know, you have 1 or 2 approaches, and that's about it, really, right? So you're kind of going from point A to point B, and you can take a couple different routes, but it's not really that open sandbox feel that I think they were trying to really achieve here. I think they did overall expand the map, something that's pretty phenomenal. Like you pull up on one of these spots, and dude, your target is like 1,000 meters away. So like that's pulling off one heck of a shot, and it's an incredible rush. But when we get into some of the issues with the game, Nate, like I've had some weird glitches and some AI things just come up. I was like, ah man, it really kind of takes you out of the game, right? So I had 2 targets lined up in front of me and no idea, but all of a sudden when you get notified that you're getting noticed, this ticking kind of meter goes up. Exactly. So then I've got this heavy right behind me coming in to the point where he can almost touch me with his gun, and then he notices that I'm there but spins around and walks back up the stairs. So it's just kind of like, no, I should have been busted, right? That was my fault there. That should have been on me, that I had no idea he was coming up on the approach. They also give you the ability to have a drone. I don't know why, because you can't use it half the time. Not even half the time. I bet you I couldn't use the drone 90% of the time, because they have these anti-drone towers within the game that prevent you from using it. So why even take that up in my tool slot when I can't use the thing at all? That was real frustrating. For a stealth game, I like to go and make sure I kind of, you know, scan my surroundings. And when my drone was gone 90% of the time, I just thought, man, what a waste. What a complete waste. And my only other gripe with the game really is the progression system. When I started, I just waited an extra level. I bought the best sniper rifle in the game and used that for the rest of the game. Like, I didn't have to upgrade anything. I, you know, tweaked my gun mechanics a little bit. I put a silencer on, you know, I upgraded my mag, I got a better scope, but that was it. And then I was good for the entire game. You spend this money, that's why I have $800,000, because I got nothing else to spend it on.
Alright man, so my time with Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2 has been an absolute blast, dude. There are some glitches that just kind of take you out of the experience, but very quickly on the Series X, man, if you get busted or your game bugs out, you quickly can reload your checkpoint and they're pretty forgiving. Maybe I would have liked to have seen a save system instead of this auto save system, because I've even had my character spawn in on a checkpoint while I'm being detected, which is frustrating. But outside of that, the experience of sniping 1.5 kilometers away and taking your head's eyeballs out as you poke them in the back of the head with your bullet, there's honestly nothing like it. Sniper Elite Series comes close, but this being modern day setting is fantastic. So I'm gonna have to give it a 7, man.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you, Nate. There's just too many AI dumbness, to be honest. Like, as technical as that sounds, it's just not where it needs to be for the AI. There's just so many other glitches that kind of prevent it from being the game I feel it can really be, right? So for me, as much as I love this game, I couldn't wait to finish it and plow right through this thing because it was just that exciting. The becoming a sniper is an absolute rush. So for me, dude, I gotta give it a 7 as well.
Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2 is the best game in the series yet. Satisfying sniping animations, good graphics alongside some fun stealth mechanics make up for most of the game. Although there are many minor technical issues and a progression system that needs improvement that take away from making this a near perfect sniping experience. Alright, so this week on Xbox, we got some sweet free upgrades, and I'm talking about frame rate boost upgrades. Starting with Doom Eternal, they have 3 options now available to you on the Xbox Series X and S, whether you want ray tracing or a true 120 frames per second experience, with the exception of a little dulled down graphics. I mean, when I say little, I mean very little. You can actually look up some videos online to see the difference between the 3. It is so hard to tell, but if you can get your hands on this, you absolutely need to check it out. Doom Eternal looks fantastic now. And another game that got a boost was Dark Souls 3. This has been a much requested game to get a frame rate boost on the Xbox Series consoles. So to see that happen, this is fantastic. I have been waiting to play Dark Souls 3. I've been slowly chipping away through that series, and now that it has this huge upgrade, I am absolutely in. Let me know what games you would like to see get a frame rate boost upgrade on your next gen consoles. I'm really curious to know.
The Legend of Zelda has to be one of my favorite games on the Nintendo Entertainment System. I mean, this is just a classic game. It had everything, and as a kid, I just got so involved in this game. It was so much fun. But you know what? When that game came out in 1986, it retailed for $49.99. Well, right now on Heritage Auctions, there's a copy of an early production run of the game sealed in the box with the plastic wrap, going for $115,000. I mean, that's a wild price to pay for a Nintendo game. And I mean, especially one that you're never going to play because it's always going to stay in that package. And I mean, these prices seem extreme, but earlier this year, there was actually a Super Mario Brothers first production run sealed in the box for the NES that sold for $660,000 at auction. So $115,000 actually doesn't seem too wild when you see the price of some of the other games. But they did note in the description of the game that there isn't another version of this game that's more rare out there available on the market. They believe that there is one version better, but it is actually probably the only one sealed from the original production run of the game, and they said they believe it's never going to come to market, which probably means that they went for it and maybe asked about it and tried to get it to come to auction. Whoever owns it said, no way, I'm not giving this one up. Well, I mean, it's amazing to see that, you know, these old Nintendo games are being, you know, bid on, and they're going for so much money. It's cool to see. It's also a little ridiculous, but honestly, there's collectors out there that I'm sure are willing to pay anything for some of these games to complete their collections. Heritage Auctions definitely has a bunch of cool ones up there. If you've never been to that website, you should definitely check it out, because there's some really cool things on there for auction. Maybe there's something in your price range. Maybe you want to spend $100,000 on a Nintendo game. But honestly, I think that Legend of Zelda copy is probably going to stay sealed in that box. I don't think I'm going to be putting my money out on it. But honestly, overall, I think it's pretty wild to see.
Well, I have some good news. It looks like that Epic Online Services has just released 2 new free services that's available right now. One of them is called Voice, and the other one is called Easy Anti-Cheat. Voice is a free cross-platform service for developers to offer in-game voice chat functionality to their players across all major desktop, console and mobile platforms using any major game engine on the market. Prior to release, Voice has been battle tested on Fortnite. The service has proven to be supercharge engagement and provide a high quality, stable, fast and efficient voice functionality at massive scale. Connections are established between authenticated users and relayed through the Epic Online Services backend servers. Epic Online Service handles all the scaling, quality of service, maintenance, multi-region presence and other machinery of the voice servers. Now, Voice has been tested on Fortnite and it's seen a peak of 15.3 million concurrent players. Now, the second free online service is the Easy Anti-Cheat, which can be trusted to handle millions of users at peak times. It also runs in the background and prevents common cheating techniques as a robust and ever-evolving first line of defense. In addition to the prevention capabilities, cheats are detected by cross-checking a large database of known cheat techniques. Alongside machine learning processes, accounts using detected cheats are then listed in the Epic Online Service developer portal, empowering you to act as you see fit. Now, this is fantastic news, as having operating voice and anti-cheat on online games could cost millions of dollars, and this service is absolutely free, which is good news also to the developers because it gives them more power then to build cross-platform games.
That'll wrap up today's episode. Thank you for hanging out with us, and don't forget, you can always be a part of our show. Hit us up at InsideTheGame.ca or in our Discord channel, just like DC Legend did when he submitted his clip of some funny action in Rainbow Six Siege. Where's that guy going? Until next week, everybody, thanks again, and we'll see you inside the game.